way back, but we don't have time for all that. So I want to give you the crib notes so you understand what this shutdown, where this thing started. So if we really want to go back to it, we would go back to the fall of Israel. You know what I'm saying? And think about it. When all those people, no, let's go to the Exodus of Egypt. Let's do that. When they came and took our stuff. When they came and took our stuff, they created a vacuum. So what happened to all of those banks that existed in old Canaan? What happened to all of the gold and all of the stuff that those ancient Canaanites, Moabites, Hamathites, Amorites had? That they had from time immemorial, that they had built up in their own stocks and coppers from whatever ancient times that they got it from. Because remember, these basically represent, the Canaanites represent basically the Phoenicians, who also represent the Carthaginians, who then by default will represent the Etruscans, who were the original people in that place we call Greece or Peloponnesia, aka the Mediterranean. Those people that we call Greeks initially were descendants of those so-called Moors or so-called Hebrews or so-called Canaanites that after the fall of Jericho, they wind up having to go jump on their boats because they were Danites. Tribe of Canaan is from Dan. So the Danites, who are also Hamathites, right, jumped in ships and they went to this area, what we call Peloponnesia, whatever, that they now call Greece. And in that area, they linked up with the people that was there, the Spartans, the Dorians, the Athenians, these people, and then showed that they were connected based upon them being of the same blood, right? Whether you was from Ham or Cush. So once they hooked that up with the treaty, this is where you get countries like Thrace and Corinthia and Dorian and places like that. And these guys who were Greek now took the Hebrew stuff and translated all of that into Greek so they could then base the philosophy on what they kin had brought to them. But these Greeks, these people that was there, they also had a tendency to try to civilize and work with the humanoids, the white people. They would deal with the haremage with white women, and so that and they was dealing with other stuff. So the more that was invested in them, the more less Hebrew they became and more so-called Greek they became. And so once it got to the Battle of Troy, and then the Trojans wound up sacking.
All right, ma'am, I do apologize about the long hold. I'm actually still holding for a supervisor. To be a moment.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know who that was. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so the more they did that, they cross-pollinated that, and then from there, by the time of Philip made himself a vassal of Carthage. Okay, Carthage then backed Philip and his son Alexander to then go and basically bring Egypt and Babylon and all of that into the sway of the Carthaginians. So this is all happening at the time that Rome is now starting to burgeon. You dig? So by the time of the Punic Wars, let's say, when all of the thing was said and done, and Rome had basically absorbed Carthage or whatever, all of that gold, all of that money, all of that copper, brass, all of this hoard, this vast hoard of gold, basically would travel where they would take it and put it in different places. And everywhere they would take it, it would be bought. So by the time it got to Mansa Musa, right? I'm gonna get to this in a minute. By the time it got to Mansa Musa, right? Everybody in the world is under the sway of the Moors, the original people, because we're the ones that basically helped establish the roots with the old empire. Because at the time of the rise of Islam, the imperial aspect of Islam, there was the caliphate and there was the khanate. So that's when everything started to get thing. And then everybody else was in the middle of that. But both of these things is basically somewhat Islamic, you dig? But they're not specifically like the religion is more being done to keep the people in line, but the people at the very top, people like him, he's like us. So we're understanding the true aspect of Islam, Allah, all this other thing, and now we're reconsolidating everything. So now we're using gold and silver to put everybody back on track. So because now around the 15th, 16th century, this is maybe 2 centuries after the fall of the Moors. So that deaded the intellectual rise in Europe, because now what that did was establish now them marrying into the family, our families, forcing us to capitulate and adopt a way of law and all that, and at the same time retaking our history, rewriting it, and giving it back to us, right? So now that we're not in our royal title, with our personal titles, things start to get murky, because now you have people referring to themselves by the names that they are adopting and not the names that was left for them. Like Il Bay Day, that's left for us. We can show in history there was people named this before us, and they was a part of a certain type of way, a certain type of custom, culture. You understand? So with those identifying factors, we being the Moors, we become basically the viceroy or the lords of all of the different royal houses, because we're the ones that established the trade route. So like like the dude said on the thing, while China focused on trade, the Western European people, they was more about conquering, meaning taking, not really making nothing new, but taking what exists and making it commodity, making everything a commodity, and then using a commodity as a means to turn people into corporate citizens. And so China was heavily invested against that. So at the time that Mansa Musa is doing all the thing that he's doing, a couple hundred years before that, this is where we get into the Asiatic thing now. There was this guy. And I'm gonna wrap all of this up to the reset. I mean, to the shutdown, because this is all how it really started. This is Tamerlane, or his real name was Timur. Okay, Timur or Tamerlane is the father or the grandfather of the Great Khan and all of the Khans after. The Chinese lords of Manchuria were forced to come in that. No, I'm saying that royal names like the Shang or the Zhao or the Ming or the King with a Q, those types of dynasties, though all those people find and trace their ancestry back to those Moors that left the Sudan, went, what we now call the Sudan, went into India, and then from India went into China, and then basically established the Qiang dynasty according to their geneticists. And from the Qiang, all the other dynasties came from that. So the Chinese royal family, those then kept spreading further outward now into the islands that we call Nepal, which is really Japan and all these other places. And this is where we get the different types of Asians. So the closer you get to mainland China, the lighter people get. The farther away, the closer you get now to Cambodia, India, Indonesia, everybody get darker. You see what I'm saying? Because the Chinese practice the form of isolation. But I'm going to get to that based upon the race mixing. So Timur was a conqueror, and he united everybody. And once he united everybody, you get this book, The Black Dragon River, because he was born around the Amur River, which is the river that borders Russia and China. Because the Amurs, you see what I'm saying, were the ancient Manchurians who basically established the foundation of what we call the dragon emperors, the holy ones, who had the blood of the serpent, because these are the people that was directly related to the people who will become the Champa and the Naga and these type of people. Remember, I said they came from Sudan or whatever, and then went down into so-called Southeast Asia. And then once they got pushed out of that, which is India, they moved up into Japan, and it just kept it moving. And then some settled, and then eventually, boom, this is how they started doing it. Now, the people that existed out there already was what we would see as the Mongolian type. As you can see, Timur was Asiatic. So the Asiatics created the Asians, you see what I'm saying, through this breeding program that was initiated by Timur. And in that, he started to amass huge amounts of wealth based on his occupation, based on his campaigns. This campaign put a heavy stress on Rome and all the other European empires he was basically now conquering. So it got to the point where he extended it as far as he could. And then that's when it really was on, because he had a son, and his son name was Temujin. Right? And Temujin was a psychopath, for lack of a better word. He was, in reading about him, it just seemed like he was really insane. And this insanity gave him great focus. And that focus then allowed him to basically extend the empire to the point that he destroyed all rivals and then went and invaded Manchuria. And then once he invaded Manchuria and became the head of all of the so-called royal families, and he basically killed most of them. And then the ones he kept alive, he had sex with the daughters, and then he basically took over the kingdom. So you see him here at the top, right? See how black he is around the serpent. Remember that. The serpent is the dragon. Remember that. So Temujin, becomes Genghis Khan. This is him too. You see him with the red top? This is him too. See him in the royal red and green, which is the imperial colors of the Moorish Empire, right? See that? Okay, you see all these white people under him, right? He's literally above them. He literally would do he had a point where they said that he had one party where he literally tried to walk on all their heads. He had them all stand together like mannequins, and then he would try to walk on their heads and stuff. So he was real about that life. You know what I'm saying? And it got to the point, you see, boom, boom, boom. Note that Genghis Khan is depicted as a black man, period, because that's what he was. He was Asiatic. So when we say we Asiatic, you understand? I'm going to bring how the Khan blood came into us over here. So in this, he now controlled China. So this is all of the gold in China. This is all of the gold that the ancient Manchurians had accumulated. You understand? This is all the gold now. This is going back now. Remember, when 1492 happened, what happened to all of the money? Where'd the money go? You got to get Prince Uriel Bey book, O.S. Economicus, and you'll read that we set up banks through the Medici to get all our money back and hold it with a certain amount of interest that would be given back to the heirs when they came back in their original name. It's all in the book. Because we are what they refer to as the green, they say that it's the black dragon family, then there's the white dragon family. Well, guess what? We're the green dragons. So, because the color of Islam is what? The color of the star on your flag is what? Okay. The red and green go together because the red represent the blood, the will. The green represent the faith, the money, the trust. Right? When Green Lantern uses his ring, what powers the ring? What's making the constructs? What's creating that? What does he use to create those things? Exactly. His will. His will. And what is a will? What is a will? Exactly. It's a trust, right? And a will that is a part of a trust is established through a what? Through a what? What is that will? How does that will express itself? What is the foundation? Exactly. The estate. And the fulfiller of that will, of that trust, of that estate is who? The trustee, right? But each trustee in different languages has a different title for that word. So in Jewish Khazarian language, it was the Kagan. In the English language, it was the king. In the Moorish language, it was the sheik, which is why the prophet wrote the sheik as the trustees, because that automatically brings us back into the empire that is connected to this vast gold hoard that we, again, were also the beneficiaries of based upon what happened to us in Granada. The families that became white and whatever, this been going on since time immemorial, but they worked against us to depose us and then took our assets to create the Western world. You understand? That's why that's why of everybody on the planet, we were the only ones that lost our nationality, because our nationality was tied up in our inheritance, our global inheritance, going all the way back to Genghis, and even before that, going back to the when we took the head of the great Satan at Constantinople. The guy that did that was Muhammad the First. This is another picture of Genghis. You think of Genghis, think of somebody like a muscular Biggie Smalls, like a fat, you know what I mean, a fat muscular Biggie Smalls. These the Chinese already adopted. This is why they're in Africa trying to graft themselves back into the original man. They are literally eating. They caught a guide. They arrested three Chinese nationals in Gabon because they found them eating their guide in the bush. This is on a silk scroll going all the way back 1200. And look, under him is the other two races. Here go the black gene, and then what they say with the Yakub. Then from the red gene, then the yellow gene, then what was left? The white gene, right? But what do they call the black gene in China or Japan? Cocoa gene. What do the Japanese call America? What they used to call America? They used to call it Bay Coco. B-E-Y, like how Uriel Bay spell Bay. B-E-Y Coco. So the original Asiatics. Now the Chinese, they don't already gave this up. This is why they taking over Africa. This is why they grafting themselves into the Africans. This is why they killing all of the Chinese Muslims over there. They making way because they trying to regraft themselves, because they are now being backed, okay, by what they call the Black Dragon people. So those people are the people who, after the war between China and Taiwan, when the so-called Rothschild niggas got Mao Zedong, who was a Jesuit trained missionary. You understand? The communist Mao Zedong went to a Catholic seminary and then went on to run the Chinese Republic, Socialist Republic. There's a statue they got to Genghis out there. Now you have to understand, I'm jumping, but when you speak of Genghis, every Asian person in the world, especially the light ones, more than they all have his mark. That's how they were able to trace where his gene came from. And his gene go all the way back. Now look at these people. These are the Khoisan of South Africa. Remember, I told you they came from the South. These are the descendants of the original Champa. When we kept getting expelled, so in 1492 we was dispersed. At the fall of the Jerusalem and all that, we was dispersed. At the fall of Canaan, we was dispersed. Where did all of these people go? We went wherever we had kin at, wherever we had dominion at. So some of us came here, some of us went there, some of us went over there, established kingdom because we used to have this stuff. So we established the kingdoms, we established the empires. In the case of the Aztecs, the Moors basically knew how to politic and wound up running the whole country. Built the capital and everything up until Cortez came. And he's fulfilling the mandate that started when the dirty Moor sold the kingdom of Granada to Isabella. Then when they foreclosed in 1492, this is when the Moors finally realized that all the time y'all niggas been fighting, y'all been losing land little by little. But the land they losing it to, Sancho the Great and Isabel and Ferdinand and these people is black too. They just Spanish speaking black. They Roman speaking black. They pork eating black. You understand what I'm saying? From Europe though. And they are buying the slaves, the white women slaves from the Turks and them, who are the Mongols, basically the Turkic Mongols, because the Mongols became the Turks. The Turkic Mongols, and then boom, they paying with all of this with gold. So it got to the point where by the time of Marco Polo, China is one of the biggest trade routes, and one of the trade route, the Silk Road and all that the Moors set up, we bringing them pumpkins and all types of stuff. Look up the Song Dynasty. And the Song Dynasty dealt heavy with the Moors. Talking about the food and the gold and stuff we was bringing from over here, over there. You understand? So all of that money, where did all of that gold go? It kept getting bigger and bigger. They kept hoarding it. Who kept hoarding it? The Chinese. This is why they wanted to fight. They wanted to destroy China. Remember the Opium Wars? Remember that? The British East India Company? Remember? They didn't want to do any business because at this time, these are the direct descendants of the Khan. Think about it. These is Moors. These is people, the Bushido clan, the royal family of Japan, the royal family of China, the royal family of Korea, the royal family of Vietnam. All of them is related. You understand? All of them have this black gene. I got a friend who's like my cousin. Call him my cousin. He's like my brother. He's one of my first supporters. Anyway, we would go out at times with our families and stuff like that. Anyway, he married to a Japanese woman, right? They had the baby, right? Their baby is seen as Japanese on paper, but they acknowledge that technically you can't be Japanese unless you're directly Japanese like that. So he's what's called, a Beikoko. They refer to him as Beikoko because he's American. So that's what I was going to say. So he take kendo. So his grandmother, the Japanese grandmother, she's excited because now he about to reach the level where he gonna get Bushido. But she's like, oh, well, he's gonna be a great shogun one day. Because only the shoguns, you could be that if you was black. That's why when you see the shoguns in their armor, they always wearing black lacquer, right? Because all the samurai, the Bushido and all that, all of them descend from the Khan. And the Khan and them descend from the Moors, who had already basically brought civilization out. When the Moors established the trade route, the Silk Road with the Mongols, that's when they created the deal between them of education. And that's why every Mongol king had a Moor as a grand vizier in his court. So when Granada fell, you see what I'm saying? Muhammad I basically put the call out, like, we got to put the stress on these. And this is when we started the heavy campaigns. And then this is when Rome got split because they couldn't fight it on two fronts. So one front, the Eastern Roman had to deal with the Khan, and then the Western Roman had to deal with the Moors. You see? But the gold, the money is still being circulated. So it get to a point where the Khan say, you know what? We're going to extend the dominion even farther. And so get this book, The Historical Researches on the Conquest of Peru and Mexico, Bogota, Natchez. Now, Natchez is up in where? Where the Natchez people from? Those my Aboriginal Moors. Where the Natchez? That's a tribe, right? Where's they located? Anybody? There you go. There you go. What the prophet say? What the prophet say? Who he say he found when the European got here? Who was on the Mississippi River? The Moors, right? Right. So look, Bogota. So that's Colombia. Natchez and Talamanco. Talamanco is Florida. Look, in the 13th century, the Mongols occupied with elephants, and the local agreement of history and tradition with the remains of the elephants and the mastodons. They built and put the Khan created the big giant ships and then sent them over here in the 13th century. So guess what? So this goes down now. So now you have a two-pronged attack. You got Moors coming over what they call in the Bering Strait. Mongols coming over the Bering Strait, down into America, down through Canada, down into Midwest, Detroit, Chicago, all that. You see? Then you got the other ones on the ships with the elephants and then bringing them up through Peru and Mexico on the south side. So we Moors, indigenous to the land, we already lost España, right? So what we got to do? We need help. So who helps? Who helped us? Y'all ready? Mansa Khan Musa, when he sent Abu Bakari II over here, 1300, with, they said 200 ships laden with gold, laden with silver, laden with weapons, laden with all of that. Then he sent another expedition when? In 1311. When did they say that this happened? The 13th century, right? This is where, so boom, what paid for this? All of the gold. So all of the gold now that the Moors done had from time immemorial, that we was building up here, that we was building up over there in China, that we was building up in what they call Europe, all of that gold now gets bonded all together. So now the Spanish by the 15th century, remember, this is in the 13th century, the Spanish and them start coming in, we don't lose power really to the end of the 14th. So by the 15th century, they are now coming to find the quickest route to India. Right? That's what they say. But we know they're launching the Crusades. Because remember, what else happened around this time? The Crusades. At the same time. Remember, they're fighting the battle on two fronts. You got these Moors who now they calling themselves Spanish. Now they calling themselves this. But in the end, they all Romans. Think it. Whether they Spanish, German, this, that, all of that, those languages are Romance languages. So that means their root culture is Roman. Whether they black, light-skinned, Chinese, whatever. You understand? And all of the Romans fall under the white dragons. Who is who? The black, the black dragons is the black Chinese, basically. And they done married into the Rothschilds in them too. So they a little that as well. The green dragons is like us. The red dragons is like us in Africa. So in that, this whole side of history now is taken from them. So when they finding these woolly mammoths and they finding these old elephants and camels and all that fossilized that's here. They telling you that this happened over 100 million years ago. No, it happened in the 13th century. That's how close this is to you, to us. So you see why they had to take your history from you, your dating system, who you are as an individual, because it's all based on the gold that you are entitled to. The world's gold. You understand? Look, it's a invasion of Japan from China, the violent storm, the Mongols and elephants in the land of Peru and in California. Very numerous identifications. The history of Peru and Mexico in the conquest by Spain. The Moors, the grandeur of the Incas that we know as Moors. And remember, Charles V married into the Inca family. So here go, and he was the king of Spain, right? This is why they don't want you to be Asiatic. You understand? This is why they want you to be African. You understand? So that way the inheritance, the gold hoard that is invested in your name. Remember, we speak in English, right? Right? We speak in English. So when we put ill or bay at the end of an English name, you know what that makes you? You know what that makes you? Anybody? It makes you an English lord. It makes you an English lord. You already have your title from your own state. You have an English name. In order to cease the conflict between the British conflict, the United States signed a treaty of peace and friendship with the empire that was ruling Morocco. That was ruling Britain at the time, and that was Morocco, because Morocco was backed up by the original Black Dragon family, going all the way back to the compact, or going back to this time period when the treaty was set, when we allowed the descendants of the Mongols to establish little reserves for them, and they eventually came to be called Indians. You understand? Look at a Siberian Mongol and look at a so-called white Native American. Now, this is before the $5 Indian thing. This is 150 years before the white people married into them. You understand? You understand how it went? It was under Edward the Confessor that the Jews was expelled and eventually came back in, only to work as administrators on behalf of the Moors, who was the ruling family at the time, King James and them. And they worked the system to the point that they was eventually made stewards of the whole thing. And then they created the law that they could perpetually be the custodian for the royal houses, and then establish themselves under a Moorish title called Rothschild, that we today call Rothschild, with Roth meaning red and shield or child meaning to protect. And that became the symbol that the Moors knew that they could do business with them, because now they had a family that was established but was still under the jurisdiction of the Black Dragon family, which was the unification of the Moors, the Asiatic Moors, and the Asiatic Turks in them, Mongolian Turks from the steppes, who banged out on each other here in America in the 13th century and created a peace treaty. From that point on, every Mongol king or Japanese king would have a Moor as their grand advisor in the court. And Moors would always maintain the Silk Road or the trade route and maintain the secret of the gold, the compact. That was put under what they called the Black Dragon, whatever. And then there was many societies of Moors that were in different groups and countries that were a part of that to maintain it and protect it. So they had to get rid of the Moors specifically, and then get the pale Jew Arabs to adopt their visage. And this is where we started getting the white sultans and all of that from. You understand? To the point we got the pale Wahhabian Arabs that done let Jews now can go to Mecca. Do you understand? Which is why Mecca was just bombarded with a plague of locusts. So in order to even be in the real world and to have access, you had to be under the jurisdiction of a Moor, which means you had to be a Dey. And so the Deys, the Jews, right? Those type of days, you had the Moors, the Moorish days, and then you had the delicate, the white days that they raised up. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. So in order to do that, you had to be permission to even come and see. So look, you had to come under the flag. This is where the white power structure, Jewish power structure came, and they came. Look at the white boy dressed up as the Moor. This was the only way you could get out of Europe because we had it locked down. As well as America. You definitely wasn't getting to America. But remember, camels were indigenous to America first. So how is this map showing you a dude in Africa? If camels at this time, again, you had a majority of them still in America. The camels, the bisons, the mammoths, the elephants, all of those were killed off or shipped out of here between the beginning, middle 1800 and mid 1900s. The rest of them was put in zoos and stuff like that. The white man got mountains of bones. You got pictures of him standing in front of millions of bones of the animals and the camels and stuff he done killed. Look it up. So this gold, this money is still there. But once the Moors got deposed and their nationality fell, all of the Moors' nationality fell under the Romans, the Catholics, who were really Jews, right, of the so-called White Dragon Society. So now they done broke the Moors and all that. Now they want to get at the Chinese. So what do? They set up the British East India Company, sponsored by Rothschild and them, right? The money left over from Weishaupt and them, right? Then what they do? They take that money, put that into the Britons, the Britons, and then the Britons go and enforce the Opium Wars, string China out on drugs, right? Then when China start to get itself back together, what they do? They hit China again, right? Then they hit them with, then by the 50s, they send Mao Zedong in there to seal the deal because now he's a Jesuit-trained Chinese dude. So he prays to the Pope every night, but he's the head of the Chinese Socialist Republic. So the loyal Chinese, the nationals, the true Manchurians, the ones who were trusted with the gold hoard and the ancient money, they all set up in a place we call Taiwan today. You understand? Taiwan is the true China. Taiwan is actually the real Manchuria. Exactly. The spread of the Native Americans. Who was that? That was the Mongolians. You understand? That's them. They were the ones that did that. Whenever you see the thing with the people hunting the buffalo and all that, who was doing that? Them wild white people. Where was we living at though? We was living in the cities, the structures, the mounds, the pyramids, all of that. That's where we was at. They was the wild people in the thing. And we would check up on them, make sure they had certain things and they wouldn't come beyond that. So when the white man came, he started dealing with them and they would work together against us. You understand? And they still doing it today, right? These are the founders of the Black Dragon Society. The people on the floor. Islam. So I don't care what they look like on TV, whatever white man they show you, Asian they'll show you. This is the people who were in the Black Dragon Society. As it translated once they had to leave mainland China and go to Taiwan. So this means these are the direct send. Whoever come from these guys is running the stuff now. They're obviously Asiatic. Islam. So what they did, they set up little fighting societies, little schools to teach. And then some of them went into the dark, into the black market. And then some of them hooked back up with the same devils that we've been banging on through the different family structures, right? And married into them. And now they rogue against them. But China is holding the note on it all. And I'm going to show you. What we don't know is that at the time that the prophet came, that there was a whole plan that today they're calling it Gasara. In the 80s, it was called Nasara. But in the 20s, it was referred to as the plan of experts that came to fruition in 28. And this was when the M1 money, the original money from the big recall, basically was going to be put out and put into all of the assets for all of the downtrodden people or the people that had been put out since 1492. So you see why they had to get rid of the prophet. So when the prophet went and did what he did at the Pan American Conference and made us a nation, he made us all eligible to receive the benefits when the payouts came. Based upon our Declaration of Nationality and us going back under the constitutional fold of our original republic, which then put us in fold with the greater Islamic empire through the divine and national movement of us being the true sheiks, which means trustees, right, of this plan of experts. They feel the field is divine. It is driven by a genuine attempt to better the fate of all mankind and bring them all into material level of comfort, which man is free enough from the daily troubles to pursue mankind's ultimate goal of unity with God for each and every one. It is long worked upon plan unifying the world as for the possible, as for as many as possible. That was the beginning guiding principle. The guy who was in charge of this at the time, the Gold Horde, was now under the jurisdiction of the Indonesian royal family. Yes, Moor. The M1. Look at your palm. You got an M in your palm right now. Because that's related to the God M. Look up the God M. And look what come up with that. You're going to see a jet black man with a fez on. This was the plan of expert executed. And look, they said they feel the plan of experts they feel is divine. Didn't the prophet establish the divine and national movement? So how are you not a part of it when it was set up for you once you declared who and what you are? So the UN was set up basically as the bank to be able to process everybody's money. The Fed, the IMF, all of that is under or was under the jurisdiction of the so-called Black Dragon family, which again are the nobles of both the old Genghis Khanate and the old Moorish Caliphate. And the Jews in the middle came and they hijacked everything and flipped it all up. So instead of it being a plan where we all can work together and we all get broke off our inheritance to do what we're supposed to do, what do? They established the exact opposite. They tell you that the New World Order is evil, that they want to control it all, that it's all some aliens and it's this. And yes, some of that's in there, but in the end, it don't change who and what you are in it. What we are in it. See, 2015, all trade barriers gone. Before 2020, one currency. So the one currency is the gold, the silver, and it's being paid for by who? The so-called Black Dragons, right? Who is really who? The old Moorish Empire, which is why they need you Moors to be everything else. This is how deep it is, Moors. Look. Wait. Look. WW2 creates the basis for the UN, creates the basis for the EU. The freeze the nations. Boom. A freedom war, economic stress. The objective in Europe, Africa, and Asia is to what? Number one, break down colonialism. Number two, free the nations and create equal start. Number three, control the new nations through debt, unify the world. As good as possible for as many people as possible. So out of this, the U.S. was going to be the gateway for everybody to do that. And all of the other countries in the world would allow people that didn't have a real nationality to establish a quasi-nationality by coming here. Because once they became part of the United States, became United States citizens as administered through the United States government, they now became somewhat eligible. But in order for them to become eligible, you had to be denationalized. Do you understand? Because they're occupying your space. So the gold hoard, all of the money that they're waiting for is coming from you. And it's linked. It's linked through who? Look, this is how Khan and the Moors link up. Genghis, boom. He descended Timur. Timur married Marinasha Mirza, and then they had a baby who became the Sultan Muhammad Mirza, and then he had a son named Abu Sa'id Mirza. And then boom, he became Umar. He had a son, Umar Sheikh Misra, which then founded or was part of the Fatima Sultanate. You see? So as Asiatics, we are the inheritors of everything. We are the inheritors of the displacement from the Mongol invasion, the displacement from 1492, the displacement from the fall of Jerusalem, from the placement of the fall of Canaan at Jericho. We were from the exodus of so-called Babylon, when we got kicked out of that. You understand? And whenever this happened, we had to move our money. That's why we established caravans. You did? So that way we can move it and protect it all on certain routes. And those routes were mapped out by the Moors. Get the book, Golden Trade of the Moor. This guy is the current emperor of the financial world. Because he is the direct descendant of the last emperor of Japan, PU. You can get that movie too. Get the movie The Last Emperor, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is the guy that's descended directly from the line that I'm talking about. Only thing, he's a little bleached out because, you know, they married them and then kept the dark gene out. Yeah, that really works. But women who are pregnant, watch out for that. Watch out for colloidal silver. You might not want to drink that when you're pregnant. It might be too, it may be too ethereal. It won't allow the seed to condense. Yeah, this dude, this is the guy that's running everything. This is the guy that owns the IMF. This is the guy that owns the Fed. This is the guy that owns all of the banking Rothschild houses and all that. Remember, they were all made money changers under our ancestor, Edward the Confessor. That was a black man. And he made them the type of people that wouldn't have a land, but they could be used and they can control the business aspect of whatever country they was in. They usurped that, took a Moorish title, Day, like Evelyn Day Rothschild, Norman D. Rothschild. You see what I'm saying? They're functioning under the Day ship. All presidents, United States presidents can, and all of that, all these white people, they can all trace their genealogy back to some Mameluke somewhere. Because they all grew up under the empire. So they're not going to tell us this is why the Native American people here. They just want to act like that was the original natives that they was dealing with when they wasn't. All the real treaties that they still doing right now that have come to bear was between us, Moors, and them, not no Indians, because Indians didn't have no international trade without the Moors. You understand? It's already in play. They already shutting it down. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All of this is why the government is where it is. So let's come further into modern history, right? So in modern history now, we go to this guy. This is Sakurno. You see, he's standing on the right. He, at the time, was the head of the whole thing. The head of the thing. Like the guy showed you now, this was the guy when it was run by Indonesia. This is why they established Vietnam and did all the crazy stuff they did out there. He was a Muslim. See, he got the 5-pointed star. See that, right? See, he got the Mufti crown. See that? See him with the turban. This is him when he was younger. Anyway, he grew up with the science of how this thing was, and he became the head of the M1 Bank. So he became the keeper of the Amur River and all of that. This is his. This is him with an old drawing or painting of his great-grandfather, Jolo Solo. No, Jolo Solo's father, his father's father. That's an Asiatic Moor. You understand? Because you can't see in the pictures, but this dude was as dark as me in real life. You obviously see the nose. You obviously see the lips. This is a black man. It's an Asiatic black man. We have the Asiatic gene in us due to the invasion. You understand? Allah made it so that way every conqueror that came to take something from us, we took something from them. And now based on that blood, we able to get all of what it is that's inherited on both sides, on the whole planet. All because we keep our names and customs. Because those customs and name is celebrated all over the world. But Negroes can't be celebrated because they were the slave race created by the so-called devils in the financial system at the fall of Granada. But when we really think about it, our ancestors shut that down. Our ancestors was the one that basically established the trade routes that allowed the whole world to function. Therefore, we have the ability to take control, you see, and inherit those as those very same assets because it's what's owed. You understand? That's why they're doing this. Trying to get you to dilute the inheritance so they could come back again because their birth rate is 0. It's over for them. In 50 years, they're out of here. So, like he said, you gotta, the guy said in the interview, like you gotta understand this thing gotta happen at a certain incremental position because you can't just give these niggas $1 billion in their account right now. You can't do it. You could serve people, but you can't really do that, man, because these people don't know how to act. Everything is a test. More people go to work for somebody else to start their own businesses. This is why they popped your man, because the whole gold $2 bills, silver thing that Lincoln was trying to do, that Kennedy was trying to do, that Jackson was trying to do, that all that money, all that gold, all that stuff was under the jurisdiction of this dude. So after they popped him, they get rid of him, what did they do? They went in and set up Vietnam, went into Laos, destroyed Cambodia, destroyed Indonesia, set up the killing fields. Look up the movie The Killing Fields. Made this nigga look like he was some sort of dictator, tyrant. So the plan had to go back underground. And it wasn't until Clinton that they came back out with it. Then they came out, was going to do it. Then he decided to use it all for his game. Shelved it, put it away. Nobody knew. The people that did know, he offed them. You know what I'm saying? Now here we are again with Trump now, and he about to really do it. So, in haste, the Black Dragon Society, allegedly, calls for, what's her name to come out? Nancy Pelosi to come out and make her the head of the society. So this way she can negotiate directly on their behalf, but the whack Dragon Society, not like the Asian ones directly. This is the Rothschild ones, the ones that married in. The People's Bank of China, that's Rothschild. This is what's happening. This was Mohammed II. This is why they don't like you, Moors. Because once we found out that the days was trying to flip and not do what they were supposed to do with they delicate with the position that we gave them, we hunted all of them down. Look, number white people. number white people. Look. You see any black people up there? Nope. Or black people down here. You understand? This is why they don't like you, Moors, because you the only ones from time immemorial that's been banging on the devil. General Monk was a Moor. Ramses and them, those was Moors. When you were, Moors are conquerors. And we need to stop being scared of that. We come in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. But if you try to create some situation where we now got to stop wearing our feathers, stop wearing our turbans, that's when we get violent. That's when it becomes some piracies. That's when we become the Barbary power. Because now we got to extend jurisdiction and remind you that all the gold you using come from me. It all come from us. The Africans don't get it. But the Africans got a secret society. They got a society. That society is called the Leopard Society. That's what the Black Panther thing and all of that. But we in the society too. Over here is just a jaguar. Get this book. Indonesian Foreign Policy and the Dilemma of Dependence. These are all Asiatics. Remember the prophet said, all ye Asiatics. The uniting of Asia. Right? It don't say the uniting of Africa. Do it? No. So, because the United States, one of the stipulations in the joint says that the United States got to come up with the reparations. They don't want to do it. So they've all fallen into default. That's why the UN put out the document that said that the United States owes all the blacks reparations, right? So guess what? Your man came out with the executive order to acknowledge the 400 years of slavery. Y'all heard about that? Y'all heard that Trump put out a whole thing to acknowledge the illicit treatment and the horrible thing that happened to black people for over 400 years? Y'all ain't heard about that? But guess when he put it out? He put it out on January 8th, 2018. Do you understand, Moors? Do you understand what I'm saying? This dude put out a congressionally backed, both sides of the Congress admitting that the United States was complicit in everything that they did for the past 400 years, Moors. And he put it out on Noble Jew Ali's birthday? This why Obama going to jail. This why these niggas is going to jail. Because that nigga had a chance to do it and he copped out and chose to be gay and go with them with the sex rituals and eating the children and all that. That's why all these niggas is going down. Look, Moor. The Court of the Rift is a portion of seaboard Morocco and is famous for the piratical achievements of its inhabitants, who, though subjects of the emperor, only acknowledge him as their chief in a spiritual sense. It contains a dozen or so wretched villages where none of the people who dwell in them dare appear, lest the terror inspired by the lawless brigands. This article was done in 1920 something. We was banging on this devil until the end. These niggas, we was hijacking their ships to the end. The Emperor of Morocco at last saw the necessity of taking some measure to assert his authority over the defiant subjects, and accordingly he sent the Pasha of Tangiers, Ben Abu, at the head of an imposing force to collect the considerable overdue tribute levied on the people of the Rift. Abdul Rahman laden with large sums of silver and gold. He was also fortunate enough to burn a number of their boats, checking for a time the lawless deprivations. So he just came to get his cut. He didn't care what them Europeans say. So all this money from Haiti, all of this money from the human trafficking, all of this money that these guys are using, as much as it's there, all of it has come from ill-gotten gains. So they can't actually control it anymore. So a new system has to be back to get rid of them. And this is what they're all fighting against. And this is what Trump is basically addressing. Because, Moors, on March 21st, it rings in what we and our people refer to as the Great Jubilee. This not only would be an eclipse, but it's also going to be day 400 of the so-called biblical 400 years, according to the Enoch calendar. Before Trump is a racist or before you're a white man or anything, what are you? You are what you're born as. And he was born a Gemini, right? When you ever know a Gemini, when you ever really know what a Gemini thinking? They still trying to figure out Tupac, how he moving. People, based on how he moved in life, people still think he him. That's what I'm saying. He think he for the white people. What did he say about the people in China? I mean, in the Charleston thing. He said there's a bunch of nice people out there, though. Didn't he say that? What do nice mean? What do nice mean? Exactly. It means stupid. So unless you got the ears to hear what these niggas is talking about, you going to take what they saying on face value. Language in the vulgar masses is totally different than coded Freemasonic language or the language spoken of in a court. We know that. So again, I'm not saying he's not racist. I'm not saying that we should support him. What I'm saying is everything this dude done so far has helped me out. You understand? And I would challenge anybody to tell me from the time you was born to now, how any of these presidents has stopped you from making money. How did Jimmy Carter stop you from making money? Didn't you have a good childhood? Didn't you have toys? Didn't you have sneakers when you wanted them? You may not have had everything, but you had stuff. You had video games. You was able to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Let's stop acting like growing up in the ghetto at one time was like growing up in Palestine right now. Let's stop, man. We was poor, but we didn't even know we was poor. You still had a Christmas tree. You still ate. You know what I'm saying? Your mother still ironed your clothes. Your mother still washed your face. She still made you brush your teeth. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's stop acting like we somebody we not. Let's stop acting like we didn't even know what racism was till Roots came out. We didn't know what that was. They put us in an alternate reality, man. We didn't even know what that stuff was. You mean, think about this. Think about all the years you was born, growing up in school, all of that. All of these pictures I'm showing you now, these Moors doing all this stuff, all them pictures was there then. How come you ain't see them then? How come? Where was they at then? See, they messed up with the internet. That's where they messed up. Because it broke the barriers. It made it easy now for you to figure out what you want. That's why there's no excuse. So if niggas want to be Indians, let them be Indians. Let them do that. Let them think that's going to get them somewhere. Look, here you go. This is why you hear the talks of the Articles of Confederation, which were drawn up prior to the United States Republic Constitution of North America. People try to claim their Indian tribal connection in an effort to show their prior connection. But upon research, you will find that the treaties entered into by the so-called Indians were done, for the most part, when the Moors were in a subordinate position of conquest. Being labeled Indian gave no real power, as it is not an identity. It is a brand or a label that holds no sovereign power. Of course, people have added black to it, and now they call themselves Black Indians, which makes matters even worse. There is no treaty, subordinate, or authoritative that utilizes or identifies the words Black Indians. You will then hear of or read the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787, which is a contract entered into by the Moors prior to the adoption of the Constitution. The Constitution was written in 1789 and ratified in 1791. As you go further back, you will find more treaties involving the Moors, which were drawn up when they were in the authoritative capacity. This is obvious by the letter from George Washington, the first president, when he gave to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the official document and the documents of American history that was obviously left out in the curriculum of education taught to the children, where the Moors are connected to the lands. Period. Great. So call yourself Ananuia. That's cool. But that's only half the story. Having a name without il and bay in it is like having a sentence without a period. The il and the bay, or the day of the Allah, the Ali, the Pasha, the Allah, that's the thing that lines your name up. Like my name is, my born name, Prince Charles Edward Labrie Rogers L, right? So that's a story, right? Because remember, we read everything. When the Spanish do it, they do it from the opposite. So they put L in the front. This was them trying to flip it. You see what I'm saying? Get the book Moors and Masons by Brother Abdullah Bey. Bless the dead, his mom's was recently returned under mysterious circumstances. So pray for that brother, because he around some interesting people. Anyway, what was I gonna say, Morris? Damn, what was I saying? I'm sorry. Great. So when Trump put out that decree, yes, the name, right? So I'm Prince, right? Who descends from Charles, because my father's name was Charles and his father's name was Charles and his father's name was Charles. Okay. So Charles, right? That is a Chalagi name, but it's also a British name, but it's also a Spanish name, because Charles was also the King of Spain, right? Then I'm Edward. So that brings in Edward, the Black Prince. That brings in Edward the Confessor, right? That brings in who is the keeper of the Jews, who's the one that created the tenets on how the Jews was supposed to be in noble dominions, right? Then is Labrie, that's the French. So far, Principus, that's Latin, right? So there's the Carthaginian at the beginning. Then Charles, right? That's Britain, that's British. That's also Tashalagi, which is Ananuia, and it's also Hausa. I met a dude from South Africa, his name Prince Charles, and I met a Haitian dude, and his name was Prince Charles, right? So then that's Charles. Then that's Edward, right? So now that's Pictish / Irish, right? Then Labrie, that's the French, the Haitian, the Creole, the Arcadian, right? The Habsburg, right? Then Rogers, that's now the Indian, South Dot Indian, as well as Feather Indian through the Northern Creek Rogers, the Southern Creek Rogers, the so-called Cherokee Rogers, right? The so-called Anasazi Rogers and the Seminole Rogers. Then, so that's that. Then that's that Indian. Then you got the other Indian side, which is Raja. They called the Mahatmas, who were the Moors of Mohenjo-Daro, as well as the Indus Harappan Valley, as well as the Champa and the Naga people, the Southeast Asian Moorish people, who are now the pregenitors or the postgenitors to the people today we call the Sentinelese or the Jarara, the ones that just killed the Christian missionary for trying to come up in there and talk all that BS. Raja means sun god. So that's the Indian, Dravidian, you see what I'm saying? Post-Mahayanan Asiatic dynasty, then ended with El. You see what I'm saying? So in the beginning of the name is Carthaginian, the end of the name is so-called Carthaginian, i.e. Moroccan, because the modern name for the Moabites in today's times is what? Moroccan. That's why you don't need to change your name. So when these Moors be going and trying to get these foreign names, these Egyptian sounding names, like, come on, man. You as a Moorish American, what I'm learning is we are the transposers of everybody's BS. What they think they are is one thing until they sit down and talk to you. Last night, me and the Moors, we dining at this spot called Moshi out here. And there was a Asian woman sitting there talking to a dude. We all inhabit talking, eating, you know what I'm saying? It's like a cafe, so it's kind of like out on the street. And then halfway through the combo, she just come over and just like, look, can you guys tell me like what's up? Like, who are you? Like, what religion? Blah, blah, blah. So as we start talking, come to find out she Filipino. So the first thing I say, oh, you Filipino. So that means you got Moro in you. You a Moro. She was like, what? Moro? I was like, yeah. She said, the Moro people. That's the Moro. That's the people from your culture that look like us, but dress like us there. She's like, what? I said, get your phone out. She got her phone out. Pull up Moros. Pull up Moros and Moors. This chick was blown away to the point she asked to sit down. She sat down and then stayed for the rest of the night. Bought us dinner, all that. Left the white dude at the table. You understand? Come to find out, she worked in the industry somehow. And she was basically like, look, I got family there and all of that. Like, I didn't even know that this aspect of my history. She's like, yo, I got chills. Like, what? She's like, yo, please give me your number. Please give me something that I can further whatever. So when I go back home, I said, you go home right. I said, you got to get your nationality right. Because she was like, well, what are you? Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm Moroccan. She was like, yeah, but I mean, like, what? I said, oh, you asking what my nationality is? She said, yes. What's your nationality? I said, oh, well, my nationality is Moorish American. I said, well, what's your nationality? No, she said, because she wanted me to guess where people was from. But she looked Asian to me. So I ain't going to disrespect her and call her Korean or Chinese or something. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to play myself. So I say, well, no. She said, nah, you got to guess. I said, nah, I don't guess people's ethnicity. I said, let me put it like this. What's your nationality? Once I said that, oh, Filipino, my father's Italian, my thing is this. You see what I'm saying? Now, remember, I'm there with me. I'm in fez and turban. I'm with this other Moor. This Moor almost 6 foot. This other Moor, he basically 6 foot. Fez turban out. They don't go up to Negroes like this. They don't go up to Negroes asking about they self to the point where at the end, the bitch, she was, excuse my language, she was taking notes on the napkin. She had for a napkin to write stuff down, more. That's what I'm saying. So imagine what's going to happen now when the government now opens up the coffers and says that those people that are in the private sector now get automatically gifted into their accounts such and such and such, so long as you're functioning from the private sector. Look, they can't give you a bunch of these Moors be hollering at me about getting diplomatic this and that and all of that, and they don't even pay their own bill. They trying to get into this to get out of stuff. So think about that. Think about if somebody woke up with $1 billion in their account, man. The world will be over. You got to have a plan. You got to have a people. You got to have a tribe, a clan, and or a government. And the prophet left us all of it. He left us the ability to set up our own governments that's still protected under the divine right of the temple, because the temple was a part of the plan of experts. That's what I'm trying to say. He was linked into all of it. He had to be. Look at how it's structured. He set the temple up the same way. He made us all venerable trustees that can operate in the private under a Moroccan trust. And because we have a structured identity, we can now establish a government. So that way, when the funds is opened up or we go to get them, they can automatically be allotted, because at least with our government, we got a 250-year plan on what we're going to do with the money. So if these niggas would step to me right now, I got the plan, I got the constitution, I got the initiative, I got the letters of political legitimacy. You see what I'm saying? RBGs ain't going to teach me how to do that. Kemites ain't going to teach me how to do this. Black Panthers ain't going to teach me how to do that. They probably teach me about like civil literacy, but in the end, they're going to give me Marxist information. It's still coming from a communist-backed system. Allah's the greatest, man. I don't know. Maybe because I didn't even want to do this. I didn't want to do this. Growing up, I didn't have dreams of being on YouTube and, you know what I'm saying? Speaking to people about history. I didn't expect to do none of that. Look, just from the paper. Caucasian, 1992. Anthropology of relating to being a major human racial division traditionally distinguished by physical characteristics such as very light to brown skin pigmentation and wavy or curly hair, and including peoples indigenous to Europe, Northern Africa, Western Asia, and India. 2, relating to the Caucasus region or its peoples. That's in 1992. 1996, same dictionary. Adjective, from the erroneous notion that the original home of hypothetical Indo-Europeans was the Caucasus, one of the major varieties of human beings, characterized by straight or wavy hair, loosely called the white race, although it embraces many people of dark skin color. Come on, Moors. What happened between 1992 and 1996? You know what happened? The Empress Veridice put all of that work in and established the Washita, which then annexed and let the world know that we are still here and the plan of experts still applies to the divine and national movement. And its inheritors are coming back in the name that they had in the ancient treaties that led to their denationalization. And we're not going to be able to get it as niggas. We're not going to be able to get it as Negroes, any of that. We are Asiatic because we lived at the time when the whole thing was Asia. When every Asiatic on the planet, whether they was coming from the Khan side, whether they was coming from the Caliph side, whether they was coming from wherever. We didn't live in the caves. We didn't do none of that. We were the mound builders, the megalithic civilization erectors. This is who we was. We were the international trade routes establishers. This is who we are, which means we're able to do that now. Now imagine if I was one of these dirty Moors that when the chick came over, whatever, I'm looking at her as a come up. I'm looking at her like one of these niggas. No, I need somebody like that. She looked just like this, just a little bit more Asiatic. I need somebody like that to get knowledge of self and to understand and know that it came from Moors. So this way, wherever she go in life, she know. You understand? I'm talking about the Empress Veradis, who established the Washita. That's what happened between 1992 and 1996, where they had to flip the definition. Because what happened? She took it to the UN. Why? Because the UN originally was set up for us to be able to go reclaim what we're supposed to have. So now that Trump put this thing out on January 8th, somebody like me that actually has some sort of governmental situation in the works or make it happen, we can use that as the task of consent. I can accept that as a deed of conveyance, of acknowledgement of the redress of grievance that has to be paid. But I can't have no remedy. I can't do that if I'm a citizen of the United States. I can only do that if I'm a national, non-citizen, an American of the Almoracanos, protected by both the laws of the Moor Science Temple, the Great Waqif of 1622, as well as every other Moorish treaty that existed from the time of Musa, who, whether was an original person or not, is irrelevant at this point. It's irrelevant at this point if any of those biblical people was alive. You know why? Because you are your ancestors' return. So when you start speaking wisdom, that's Solomon speaking. When you start speaking love or whatever, that's Mary speaking. When you start speaking positive revolution, that's Isa speaking. That's why we Muslims, we give respect to all prophets, because they all thoughts of Allah that was sent as messengers to tell the people to repent. Shit ain't got nothing to do with religion. This ain't got nothing to do with none of that. Religion is the closest thing that the child could use to describe this type of heavy influence. And so they want the black man with an Asian. They want the white man with a black woman. They want the Asian with a white woman. When all they got to do, like you said, just move this thing right over and everybody will be in the original vine and fig tree. So again, we're not going to be able to get there without the original woman. Because she's Ruth. She's Ruth. She's Martha. She's Esther. She's Electra. And she's Rebecca. The five patriarchs that represent the five different stages. And each one represents a color. Green, like the green dragons. Red, like the red dragons. Yellow, like the yellow dragons. Right? Black, like the black dragons. And white in the middle. And what's in the middle of that Eastern Star symbol? The pedestal that the Moor, the throne that the eel or the bay sit on. So this government shutdown is really going to be good for those of us that's getting our affairs in order, because once the thing goes down and the debts are finally paid, it's only going to be people that function from the original people that's going to be able to be free. Everybody else is going to have to be managed by somebody else. So that means we have to have inferred structures and things created that would allow us to maintain and create a place for our people. It's all falling down. All corporations are going down. They all have to divest and give money back to the plan of the experts that, again, our prophet was a part of, and put us in position to be able to benefit from it so long as we follow what he was saying, which was what any prophet say. Come out of Rome, come out of Babylon, stop being that, circumscribe your lower self. That ain't religion, that's survival. But man need a religion because he is basing his history on the Caucasian that was locked up in the caves. Look, look. These is all, look, this how much money the Dutch East India Company had. This how much Apple money got today. This is going back hundreds and thousands of years. This debt, this government shutdown, this debt that we think we talk about, this is the debt that's been going for the past 400 years. And on March 21st, Moors, 2019, that is the Jubilee. That is the calculated end from the book of Enoch of the 400 years that we in bondage. So that means March 22nd, that's the first day of your freedom, your total spiritual karmic freedom of the whole cycle. And remember, we are not in New Year yet. For the people in Rome, this is their New Year in January. Our New Year is on the same day. So on March 21st, it's the last day of the 400 years. There's going to be an eclipse. It's the Enochian Jubilee, and it's what you call it. It's the vernal the spring equinox. This is what my grandmother used to refer to as the great getting up morning. This is the end of that nigger shit. Excuse my language. So everybody that don't got a nationality between now and then better get on it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So yeah, so this is the money. This is where all the money at. Apple is about to buy Sony. That's why Sony just dropped R. Kelly. You understand? It's all backdoor politics, Moors. Yeah, we good. So far, two other clients I had, they just got their passports through this shutdown thing. So obviously it's not affecting that. So it's still on. So I'm showing this graph to you to show that the British East India Company, the same British East India Company that forced itself into China and destroyed the Caribbean and destroyed everything else, this is the people that's working. So you see what's happening in Africa is actually the dark side of the dragon family that's working with the royal families of Europe as well as thing. Because the thing is, Britain cut itself off with the Brexit thing. So they are not getting EU money like that. So they got to sell arms to people now to maintain themselves. So this is why they're so hooked up with Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is buying arms from them to set off the war in Yemen, as well the genocide in Yemen, as well as the war in the Western Sahara. So with that money that they got, they gave 184 million to Prince Hassan, King Hassan in the Kingdom of Morocco, which then put Morocco, the kingdom, under the jurisdiction of the dirty Wahhabi Jews that just had the locusts swarm into Mecca. So all of these Moors that want to be Muslims, all of these Moors that's out here talking about that the pale Arab version of Islam is their Islam, that's the sign that you got to stop dealing with that, man. It's over. You cannot deal with that version of Islam anymore because that has been totally revealed as haram. And that's serving an entity they're trying to incarnate called Dajjal, which we could probably get into next week. Anybody got any questions? Any more questions? So the government shutdown is really good for us. And those of you that are doing your nationality stuff, keep that up. That's gonna be real good. It's gonna be real good to have a nationality in a minute because everything's gonna be based on that. That's why the 2020 census, that's it. That's gonna be the end, Moors. They're gonna force Moors to say what they are. And if you don't have no genetic connection to none of this stuff, and you doing all of this trying to be that, then you're gonna be stateless. And they're gonna have a nice little camp or whatever for you. Because the plan is you got to be self-sufficient. You got to have a plan for your people. What are you going to do for your people to bring the world together? Anything between the 3 and the 4 or 5 star, you good. Anything with your free national name and headdress on with it. and your rights are secured on the back end or whatever the document on, you good. Because if they try to extend jurisdiction, you can always challenge it. Especially in military tribunals and all of that. Because now the law of the flag, you can come in there with your flag on. I could go see the provost marshal and know exactly what to say. Look, under the UNDRIP, under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, under this, under that, I've been declared to these people I ain't part of that. Look at my ID. Look at my declaration of nationality. Look at my this. Look at my that. Look at my flag. Look at my headdress. Nigga can't say that. Even if he say, oh, well, I'm really African American. I'm from Africa. Okay, what tribe in Africa is adopting you? Nuapu? Nah, B, you're going down. You're going down. You're going down because they are not acknowledging the prophet. They're not acknowledging the person who was a part of the original plan. And the people that was a part of the original plan was the Moors. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was different dynasties of Moors, but they were Moors all the same. So the Fed, the IMF, the World Bank, all of that stuff is under that Chinese dude I just showed you. And he's a part of that family that's trying to reinvest or come out of it. And in the process of that, China is now trying to, the dark side, the dark Chinese, they are now trying to, when I say dark, I don't mean complexion, I mean dark in terms of motivation. They are now going in, trying to destroy and kill and absorb the genetics of the original people so that way they can become the new China Africans. And then as China Africans now, they can now inherit the new thing too. So this way now, they don't got to do that. So as long as they banging on Taiwan, you know they evil. If Taiwan agrees to reform with them, that could go either way. Either way, though, we as the Green Dragon Society got to get our thing together. So it starts with consolidating ourselves, getting our nationality right, working and finding a proper temple, which again, if everybody do their thing, I can send, once you go through and you get your passport and all that, I'll send you the application. It's a temple in good standing directly. I can show and prove it come directly from the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. There's no break in it. That's why you don't see me on TV with a bunch of different Moors and any Moors you see me with like that is Moors that's a part of the stuff I'm talking about. Yeah, but it's also how you do it, Moor. You got to do stuff before you get there. You just can't show up in court. You got to put in a notice of special appearance. Then you got to put in a letter of rogatory so they know exactly what you're dealing with. So the court know that you're coming in on a special situation. The letter of rogatory is telling the judge that you already know what the deal is or whatever. So you just there to basically settle the debt. So when you go in there, whatever they doing personally, whatever, that's all whatever. But eventually they're going to make it go away. Like I told you, Moors, we done banged on them so hard out here, and you can go check the file. Once I file this thing, this last thing to finally just get the default thing totally vacated and get the bread and all that, then I'll give you the case number. You can go into the case out here in Florida and read all this stuff we put on these niggas yourself. They weren't able, the lawyer put in a rebuttal at 2 o'clock, and then by 4:44 pulled it out. Pulled it out the record. Fired, recused herself, or basically fired his client. So now they into us for a whole gang of bread. And the state got to help. Because one of the things I put in there was Trump's executive order talking about how they can't do such and such to Moabites and people based on their statutory BS. So now, based on that thing that he put out on January 8th, I advise everybody to read it. The Moor's getting me Islam Moor. He's getting me a certified copy so I can use it now as precedent in case. I'll have it next week. And this way now you can take that, and that's tacit evidence. Tacit is sent from the president on down that y'all niggas for the past 500 years, 400 years been doing this. And so if you allow somebody to transgender into a different sex, I can go into a different nationality, my true nationality. Yeah, the Trump executive order that he put out on January 8th, acknowledging the 400 years of oppression that the United States has wrought on people of color of African descent. He put it out on January 8th, but ain't no more even talking about that. There you go, Moor. Thank you. HR 1242. Now look up your homework tonight. Go look up Moorish events from 1242. Look at historical events that happened during that time and look at the significance. Remember, Moors, you are master masons. You are master 720, 33 degree, 33, 33, 33, which is 720 degree master masons. You was born on the square. You came out of your mother and didn't join no other organization to give you light. The prophet don't require you to swear an oath or keep a secret and none of that. The prophet came and revealed the whole thing to us. So anybody that's wearing aprons and anybody that's joining secrets and doing grips and all of that, that's not exposing it, is down with it. You dig? They down with it. And remember, we was the ones on the camels walking the desert, the devil across the hot Arabian desert. He was the one wearing the cable toe, wearing the apron, riding the goat. When he got too tired or his feet was too burnt and calloused up, we would put them on goats and make them ride goats under our camels like little kids. That's why you see Shriners get in little cars and drive around. You understand? That's also based on the Corvettes. That's the name of the little boats that that the Riff was jumping in, hijacking the ships that the Somalians used to do up until now. They don't signed over their rights to China too. So everybody basically is signing their rights over to China. So we're the only ones over here as the landlords that have any real standing, because we could pull out certified copies of these treaties and show that we directly connected to that through our prophet. Can't nobody do that. You can't do that with Marcus Garvey. You can't do that with Elijah Muhammad. You can't do that with Father Allah. You can't do that with Dr. York. You can't do that with none of them. You can't. Even Dr. York is saying he's a diplomat from another nation. We're the only people saying that we are nobles and sheiks of our own. So, again, man, for those of us who have race pride and those of us that understand there's only two races on the planet, the Asiatic and the European, that's it. So, in that, thank you guys for coming through. Thank you guys for the $30 for ducateers@gmail.com. If you have any more questions about anything, just hit me up at House of Bell. Those people, client wise, I'm working with you with your 6-month process. Let me know. And just keep your head down, man. Don't involve yourself in too much of this extra moral stuff, man. The more they trying to just throw information out there at you and it's not based in nothing substantial, no solution based situation. Like, yeah, certain leans and things like that might work. But if they are not bringing this to you and cannot show you no evidence of no sort of political legitimacy, no sort of authoritative form from the occupational government or any other foreign government or anybody else acknowledging them but they self, and they are not tied into no treaty directly, and most of all, they're not keeping the profit out front, I would be suspect of it, Moors. That's just me. So again, I wish all Moors luck. I want to support all the Moors and all of that, but that's why I move how I move. I'm very private and I deal with people person to person, inshallah. Or like, little group agenda, groups, meetings and stuff where the agenda can be thin, because that's what the prophet said we supposed to do. So we supposed to go and keep everything popping and send everything mouth to mouth, because the temples was infiltrated. So he shut down the temple. So ask yourself, who opened them back up? And why is it that it was opened up in the same day, in the same era as what they call the Edwards Act, which says that they can't really speak on anything prior to 1938. So that's convenient, right? Oh, lastly, real quick, let me just show you the FBI report so you know I'm not tripping. Real quick, we'll end on this. Special Agent special agent, blah, 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 of the Philadelphia office. Now, this guy is talking to C. Kirkman Bay, just so you know. According to blah, blah, Bay, prior to 1930, various temples held regular meetings for registration and organization purposes. However, since 1930, no meetings have been held, and it is the present policy of the organization to hold no meetings. And their work is supposed to be carried on individually. And the instructions or information concerning the organization are supposed to be passed among members by word of mouth. That's according to the prophet instruction. This is what the informant is saying that the prophet said to do. He advised that it was merely as a matter of policy that the regular meetings had been discontinued, but would not elaborate on the real reason for the discontinuance of such meetings. He stated that at the time the regular organization meetings were discontinued in 1930, the Moor Science Temple of America had 32,000 enrolled members. He apparently has no record of these members, but assures that the membership is at present the same since no new members have been taken in. Think about that, Moors. No new members were taken in after 1930. So where were these temples that popped up all during that time? Anybody? This is how you know the prophet was hooked up with the plan thing I was telling you about, the plan of experts. According to the Bay, the purpose of the organization is to recover the birthright of the Moors, which was taken from them in 1779, but he could not explain by whom, and enable them to again govern their own country of Morocco and be known as Moors. He denied that it is a religious, political, or fraternal organization and could not explain further what type of order the Moor Science Temple of America is supposed to be. He stated that he is not a Negro, but a descendant of the Moors. But Agent whatever advises that Bay has all the appearance and characteristics of a full-blooded Negro. Why? Because he's sitting there informing on the temple. You understand? Look, Bay advised that the agent at the Moor Science Temple of America is a part of a worldwide organization. You understand, Moors? However, he could not enlarge upon the statement or furnish any information concerning the countries and the organization exists and what international headquarters, if any, might be located. They was trying to find out everything because they knew. But look, this is how you know it's some real agent steez, because the guy that's talking, the agent that he's in C. Kirkman Bay, look. Subject informed that his correct name is Kirkman Bay and that he is a citizen of the United States. See? He stated that the Moorish Science, not Shrine, Temple of America was organized in 1913 by Noble Jew Ali, blah, blah, blah. Bay claims that he has been the head of the Moorish Science Temple of America since 1929. But didn't he just say that all the meetings were discontinued in 1930? Didn't he say that? So which one is it? If he was the head of the organization in 1929, that's the year after the prophet returned, and then by 1930, all the temples were shut down, how is he then the head of the temples that came after 1930, 1938? You see? So that means all of the Moor Science Temples of America incorporated under him was part of the Freemason agent Mameluke Dayship, working with the Illuminati, working with all of these devils to keep us locked up. And they still doing it today. Islam, you can get this report yourself. Just go online or do a Freedom of Information Act, write to the FBI and tell them to send you any information or all information on the Freedom of Information Act on the Moor Science Temple of America, founded by Noble Jew Ali. They'll send it to you. They sent me a whole damn near box. You understand? I need Moors to read it for me. That's how deep it is. So again, Moors, we are the beginning of our own liberation. So if we're going to do it, we got to be on the same page, and we got to, in a sense, do things in a certain manner. So that way we see and we move in a habit. So this way, when it goes down, and it will go down, and it will go down, we in unit. We standing how we supposed to stand. And we're going to be walking right through it while everybody's all, oh, nigga, this one Moors, they going to be begging you. So all we got to do is be patient. All we got to do is keep our thing together, keep working, keep doing what we got to do, and it's going to work, man. Worry about your house. Worry about your estate, your trust. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. Don't take everything they saying on face value. Look at these guys. Listen to the stuff they saying. Look at what they showing you. Ask what they charging you for. So, Islam, again, thank you guys for the $30 to get tears at gmail.com. If you have anything you want to holler at me at, houseofbell@hotmail.com. We take it from there, Moors. Islam. Thank you guys. Islam. Check my Facebook page because I got a lot of stuff on there about this stuff too, and with links that you could go check stuff out. Yeah, that's what I think it is. That's why I got the device. So I'm gonna figure out how to get a new modem or whatever. But again, they can listen all they want. I ain't doing nothing wrong. I ain't plotting against nobody. They hear we so in the open. I ain't gotta hide. My Facebook is Aseer Ali Cordoba. And keep it real, we not. Moors ain't about recruiting people. Any Moors are trying to recruit you into a temple, watch out for them, man. Be yourself. Get it together. Explain this. Acknowledge as much of it for yourself as you can. Get yourself grounded in it. Then move on. That's why, like I said, me when I help people, it's a 6-month process. So this way, every step that you're doing, you remember what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you're seeing the benefit of it. Instead of me acting like I'm doing all this work for you. No, I'm going to supply you with everything you need, with the instruction, the templates, all of that. All you got to do is be diligent with it. Inshallah. So, love and light, guys. Yeah, man. They are committing espionage, man. Shame on them. But they might be listening. Also, at the same token, we nobles, right? We English royalty, right? So it might be a detachment to protect me. You know, sometimes you got to look at it positive too, you know? Because there's people in that stuff know that they got to protect us and keep these devils from off of us. They know what Negroes they need to get and what Negroes they don't. There's enough of these Negro, R. Kelly Negroes and the rest of them out there where they can get whatever they want from them. You know what I mean? That's why, again, and this why I move how I move. I'm talking to y'all. I'm following what the prophet said. Go to the people individually. Speak to them. Don't open up no big temple, none of that, unless you really ready for it to rock. So that's where I'm at. So after you finish your process and you got your passport and you got your estate and you got your trust and you settled up with the IRS and done all of that, now I'll give you an application because now we all on the same level. See what I'm saying? We all on the same level. Now you're not going to feel like you subordinate. Yeah, man. Just because we practice equality, it don't mean that we all equal. We all equal under our law. But man does not function like that. With man, you got to establish your level of equality and be equal unto yourself. So that way, when Allah makes us present and makes it known that all are equal in his eyes. You see what I'm saying? We not on some, oh, well, why are you looking at them like this and that? No. I know what I am. So I'm so secure in what I am. I don't care what you are. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So with that, peace. Inshallah. See you guys next week.